Hello, my name is Evan Swindoll, and I am collaborating on this training on behalf of the Northern Plains region. Today, I am going to discuss the section where we cover farm producer household income, assets, and debt, its importance to the big picture of farm financial sustainability, and a rundown of how we record data for the household. Farm household financial health is looked at very closely by the USDA and Congress. The data collected here supports a robust research agenda that informs policy and programs relating to farmers and farm households to answer questions such as, are farm households well off relative to the general population? How volatile is the household income of farmers? And do government programs make a difference? Why does USDA collect household information? We do this to get the complete picture of the farm financial health. We cannot understand why certain management decisions were made or economic health of the operation without knowing what other assets, debt, or income an operation has. Remember, this is the Farmer Well-Being Survey. Policymakers at the state and federal level feel they need this broader context to set good farm policy. To that end, we collect this information to meet congressional and executive mandates. The Secretary of Agriculture requires household income be reported concurrent with farm income. Congress requires this information through the Family Farm Report. Now that we know that we ask about an operator's household income, assets, and debts in order to assess economic health of America's farmers, how common is it for household members to work off-farm? Household members and even operators themselves frequently collect income from off-farm sources. In fact, we see in this data table that all farm households, on average, drew more income from off-farm sources than on-farm. Note that residents and intermediate-type farm households relied more significantly on income drawn from off-farm sources, whereas commercial farm households drew significantly more income from farm sources. In 2022, the average off-farm income of all farms was $123,223, with average earned income of $86,643, compared with $32,852 of farm income. You may be curious, what is earned income? Earned income is derived from wages, other businesses, salary, tips, and other employee compensation. Also, what is unearned income? Unearned income includes investment-type income such as taxable interest, ordinary dividends, capital gain distributions, unemployment compensation, Social Security benefits, pensions, annuities, cancellation of debt, and distributions of unearned income from a trust. Operations can draw off-farm income from a variety of sources. As shown in this chart, about 59% of off-farm income came from wages, while non-farm business income and transfer income were also large contributors to farm households in 2022. You'll probably notice that data shown in this chart comes from what we ask in question 1, where we break out by value code other sources of income. Let's examine how ARMS-3 data is used. This graph illustrates how the type of operation is correlated with the number of hours an operator has available to work off-farm. What it shows us is that dairy and rice farmers tend to spend less time working off-farm, whereas cattle and hog operations are associated with an increased ratio of off-farm hours to on-farm hours. This makes sense, as dairies must milk their herd each day, while cattle operations can pasture their herd during business hours. Now that we've seen how this data is used, let's dig into the questionnaire content. It is important to note that this section, we are not asking about the operations, income, assets, and debt. This information should have been recorded earlier in the questionnaire. We are asking about the income, assets, and debt of the principal producer's household. We collect this information not as exact figures, but by using value codes which represent a price range. Once again, exclude income that should have been reported under the farm earlier. We do not want to duplicate the household books with the farm books. It is important to understand that a none or zero value can be reported as 1, 0, 1, or by checking the none box. If the none box is checked, a value code does not need to be entered into the box. Likewise, if a value code is written, the box does not need to be checked. Please keep this in mind throughout this section, as it will happen frequently. This section is divided into 4 parts: income, spending, assets, and debt for the principal producer's household. As I stated earlier, the use value codes apply for all items throughout the section. Questions 6 through 8 ask for previous year's value of sales, net operating income, and off-farm income. This gives us a metric for year-over-year comparisons. Once again, this does not need to be exact dollar values. Please use the value code for the appropriate range. In this section, you are going to get a lot of $0 values or none. However, in regard to question parts A, C, E, and J, it's likely there was at least some money spent for food, medical, clothing, soap for dishes and laundry, etc. Make sure you do not double count and report expenses already reported earlier. This is a common error that is easy to make. An error that we see frequently is recording the information on an operator's dwelling in both earlier sections and under items 3 and 4. If the dwelling is owned by the operation and dwelling debt is held by the operation, it should be recorded earlier. Alternatively, if the dwelling is owned by the operator's household and not the operation, it would be recorded only under items 3 and 4. Once again, we do not want to duplicate farm data with household data. The financial health of farm and ranch households are commonly dependent on other sources of income that are separate from agricultural operations. So this section helps us to see the whole picture. Although there may be multiple individuals or households which share in the income of an agricultural operation, we focus on the principal operator's information. It is important to designate who the principal operator is so that we can focus on the questions on that person's household. We use value codes as opposed to dollar amounts. So even if the respondent reports dollar amounts, enter the value code in which the dollar amount falls within. Assets, debt, and expenses are easy to duplicate between the principal producer's household and their agricultural operation. Try your best to prevent duplication by making it clear to the operator what you are asking about. I hope this presentation has given you a better understanding as to why we ask about household income, assets, and debt as part of the ARM survey. Thank you for listening.